Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a great show for you tonight. Standing by in the wings, Mr. John Cornett. Welcome, John.
Hey, welcome, Paul.
And right here next to me is that wild and crazy guy, Mr. Casper Leach.
Happy Friday!
We are going to be taking your phone calls if you call in about another 15 minutes or so. We have some interesting film clips. We have a hemp news segment, so stand by as we bring on our infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
All right, our first story tonight is from the United States Supreme Court. A lawsuit brought forth by Nebraska and Oklahoma against Colorado's legal marijuana market was discussed by the Supreme Court today, March 4, 2016. This lawsuit has the potential to shut down Colorado's legal marijuana industry. The controversial lawsuit, Nebraska and Oklahoma versus Colorado, suggests the two states are suffering a direct and significant detrimental impact as a result of the retail cannabis market in Colorado. The Supreme Court's final verdict could have devastating implications for marijuana legalization. The plaintiffs are requesting that the Supreme Court of the United States put an end to Colorado's marijuana industry because Amendment 64 conflicts with the Federal Controlled Substances Act while violating the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution. Nebraska claims that legalization has created a dangerous gap in the federal drug control system that is leading to marijuana being smuggled into neighboring states. The complaint asserts that the federal government is creating a difficult environment for law enforcement and Oklahoma and Nebraska citizens. The United States Supreme Court gatekeeper, U.S. Solicitor General Donald Varela, says the case should be dropped because the dispute is not an appropriate case for the exercise of the court's original jurisdiction. He filed a briefing last year advising the court to dismiss the case since the criminal actions defined by the complaint are being committed by individuals and not by the state of Colorado. If the lawsuit receives the support of 4 justices, it could still be years before the court delivers a verdict. Marijuana production and sales could be struck down, hindering the concept of a tax and regulated marijuana market. However, that the ruling would not apply to possession and growing personal use. Marijuana would still be legal, but all dispensaries and commercial producers would be forced to shut down. In a private conference today, an 8-justice Supreme Court may decide the fate of the battle between the 3 states over the legalized production and sale of marijuana in Colorado. The petition in Nebraska and Oklahoma versus Colorado is an original jurisdiction case where the complaint between the states is sent directly to the Supreme Court with no lower court involved. The Constitution's Article 3 allows the Supreme Court to consider and accept these unusual cases, which usually involve boundary disputes. The Constitution says that in all cases affecting ambassadors and other public ministers and consuls, and in those in which a state shall be party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction, end quote. The lawsuit, Nebraska and Oklahoma versus Colorado, is about the commercial sale of marijuana for recreational use in Colorado. The lawsuit was brought by Nebraska and Oklahoma in December 2014. The 2 states contend the Supreme Court was the only venue where they could seek relief under the Constitution's Supremacy Clause, arguing that the federal government has preeminent authority to regulate interstate and foreign commerce, including commerce involving legal and illegal trafficking in drugs such as marijuana. Nebraska and Oklahoma aren't asking that Colorado's now legal personal marijuana use stop or go back to its previous laws that prosecuted marijuana use as a crime in the state. Instead, the two states want part of Colorado's plan disallowed that allows for commercial growing and distribution of marijuana with the state. The case took a delayed path to the court. Last December, Solicitor General Donald Verrilli filed the Justice Department's legal opinion, which the court had asked for on May 4, 2015, just 3 days after the petition was first considered in private conference. Verrilli claimed the lawsuit from the two states is problematic on several fronts. For example, Verrilli rejects the two states' claim that the legalized sale of marijuana in Colorado increases the likelihood that third parties will commit criminal offenses in Nebraska and Oklahoma because of an increased ability to bring the drug into those two states. He also believed allowing the lawsuit to proceed would allow states to force other states to conform to federal laws that they interpret them as not being correctly enforced. Such a broad invitation to invoke this court's original jurisdiction to resolve myriad preemption questions would not comport with the court's traditional insistence that original jurisdiction be exercised only sparingly, according to the brief filed by the federal government. In January 2016, Nebraska and Oklahoma responded to Verrilli's comments. The states claimed, quote, "Sending this case down to the district court will only perpetuate the legal uncertainties surrounding this pressing national issue and permit Colorado to benefit from any delayed attendant to proceedings, even if the legalization is ultimately found unconstitutional," end quote. The states also said a lack of trial will nullify the Controlled Substances Act, the federal law that lists marijuana under Schedule I lists of drugs, along with heroin and LSD. Since the states filed their response, the case of Nebraska and Oklahoma versus Colorado has been scheduled for a private conference on 3 previous dates. There was no action on the case after January 22nd. The case was on the list for a private conference on February 19th, but the conference was canceled for memorial services for Justin Antonin Scalia. The Supreme Court seldom hears original jurisdiction cases. It may accept one original jurisdiction case per term on average. In its last term, the court ruled on 74 appellate case, and other disputes at no original jurisdiction cases. According to the Federal Judicial Center website, the number of original jurisdiction cases has always been a minute portion of its overall caseload, and since 1960, nearly half have been denied by the court. The court's generally accepted state party cases dealing with boundary and water disputes, but has been much less likely to field original cases dealing with contract disputes and other subjects not deemed sufficiently substantial for the court's resources. If the court does take up the case, it usually appoints a special master to gather evidence before arguments are heard. That process could take an extended period of time. For now, the parties involved will be keeping a close eye on the list of official court orders released on Monday to see if any action was taken granting or denying this case. Here in Oregon, on Monday, the Oregon House passed House Bill 4094 with a 55-4 vote. The bill protects Oregon banks who provide financial services to state-regulated marijuana businesses. The bill had initially passed the House on February 16th, but the Senate amended it on February 26th when it passed there 18-6. The House votes on Monday, concurs the Senate amendments, and the bill now goes before Governor Kate Brown, who's expected to sign it, making Oregon the first state to allow banks and credit unions to provide financial services for cannabis businesses operating under state law. It makes sense to allow banking for marijuana businesses operating within state law. Forcing businesses to keep large amounts of cash on hand is quite dangerous. HB 4094 provides ample breathing room for small banks and credit unions in Oregon to further examine how they can best provide service to the cannabis industry while also complying with federal regulations. I suspect the passage of HB 4094 will inspire other adult use and medical cannabis states to follow Oregon's lead in solidifying banking reforms at the local level in the not-too-distant future. Our last story tonight's out of Puerto Rico. Last Monday, Puerto Rico's governor, Alejandro Garcia Padilla, proposed that Puerto Rico should legalize marijuana. He said, quote, Puerto Rico's governor has called for the legalization of marijuana during his last public address as leader of the U.S. territory. Alejandro Garcia Padilla said Monday that taking such action would lower crime and target hypocrisy. He said legislators should, at a minimum, approve a bill filed in 2013 that would decriminalize marijuana. Puerto Rico's health department recently adopted a regulation allowing the cultivation, manufacturing, and distribution of marijuana for medical purposes. Governor Padilla is not seeking re-election and will be replaced this November's election. Hopefully the next governor of Puerto Rico will share this mindset. That's the end of our Hemp News segment tonight. We'll jump over to John Cornett. Hey, John.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Well, very
I
well.
want to shout out to Mr. Charlie Lussman, who wrote this song and was so gracious to send me the lyrics so that I can play it for you here tonight.
Cool.
It's called Let's Make the Best of It Now.
All right.
Did you know the sun will shine one day and everything on earth will melt away? All the oceans rise above the land, drowning every woman, every man. Whoa, let's make the best of it now. We'll be just another asteroid floating through the line of Sigmund Freud. So many years we've been upon this place. Can you believe the future that we face? Whoa, let's make the best of it now. You never know when your time will pass. You've got to do just what you want to do. And if somebody tries to ruin your day, walk away. Did you notice that this world's so strange? Because our atmosphere's about to change. So many reasons why we chill the trees. Life is passing with a subtle breeze. Whoa. Another chapter as we turn the page. Can we exist within a nuclear age? I know that freedom's heard around the globe. Just where our future lies, well, nobody knows. Whoa, let's make the best of it now. You never know when the sky will fall. Maybe the moon will leave the earth one day. We're not the same race that we used to be. Can't you see? Now the next time that you fall in love, just appreciate the sun above. 'Cause the sun is shining on and on. So open up your eyes before it's gone. Whoa. Of it now.
Thank you, John. Mr. John Cornett. I love that song. It's a good one. We do have to make the best of it now. Hey, if you'd like to ask Casper or I a question about marijuana, hemp, or anything to do with cannabis, give us a call at that number there on your screen. It's 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. How are you doing?
Jeepers, Paul, it has been an exciting week watching the political events here in America. And I can tell you I have gotten educated on some of the major crises that we're facing. Like in Flint, we got the nasty water problem there. We got wars overseas that are about to consume our military. Our jobs are disappearing overseas, and our economy is disappearing. And of all of that, the most important things that we can focus on is the fact that I got big hands. And I don't mean just big hands. I mean huge, huge hands. I want to let you know that.
I think Don Trump's
No, I got
hands are
huge.
bigger.
You know what it means when a guy's got huge hands, right? That means
your hands are big.
No, it means he's good at packing a huge pipe.
Okay.
And I can pack a pipe tight
All right.
with my huge hands. So that's what I want to let the audience know,
Well,
because
Casper,
I figure if the presidential candidates are letting their people know, we should let our people know that
that was
watch
just
us.
crazy, wasn't it?
Huge, see?
Little Marco and Big Don.
So I feel better now that my audience knows that I'm not like little Marco with little hands. And I can be a Republican now too, right? Because I got huge hands, and I can be proud of that.
There you go. But a couple weeks ago, right here on this show, you gave me some information, and we have a little video I'm going to roll now, and we've got to do a correction, a retraction.
Oh, no.
Because I've been misled by some guy who says his hands are huge in a red shirt and bow tie next to me. Let's run that video. I'll be right back.
All right.
We'll be back. It won't be long now.
It won't be long, yeah.
I'm kidding. I use medical marijuana because my third eye has glaucoma. Yeah. And it's acting up right now. Maybe I should. Maybe I should treat it. This is private property, and I do have a card, so. In conclusion, please remember that legalizing pot is a long way from a done deal. I know you're tired, I am too, of making the same old, obvious pot arguments, like how pot is less dangerous than other legal adult activities. But somehow you can drink alcohol, you can smoke cigarettes, you can do that thing where you cut off your oxygen with a belt and masturbate. Which is not only dangerous, but take it from me, it'll get you kicked out of Macy's menswear like that.
Okay, so Casper, I took your lead a couple weeks ago, and during the show, right here on the air, I checked, and I found a story that confirmed what you had told me.
What, that is true that you can get kicked out of Macy's for doing that?
No. The FCC had fined Bill Maher $1.7 million for smoking marijuana on HBO's Politically Incorrect show. So you told me that.
I did.
You told me to check, and I checked, and
I
it was
did.
there online.
It was.
So I announced it on the air without doing the
What?
fact checking I should have done.
Right.
If I had looked carefully at those stories, I would have seen they were on a satirical news site. That it was like The Onion. It wasn't The Onion.
No.
But he was not, in fact, fined in less than a week by the FCC. There's a lot of crazy stuff on HBO.
There is.
The FCC does not censor that. It's private, paid content. So, and it's not broadcast. It's narrow. It's cable cast, like this show is.
Right.
And so I have to make a correction that Bill Maher did, in fact, as you could see, smoke marijuana on the show. He said he got it from Big Mike. I haven't smoked any of Big Mike's stuff, but Bill Maher says it's good. But Big Mike said his mom wanted him to light up with Bill Maher. So he did what his mom told him to do. But Bill Maher was not fined $1.7 million.
Wow.
No
Good.
fine from the FCC.
Well,
He probably was paid $1.7 million for that episode.
bad.
I'm not sure how much he gets paid per episode. That's just a guess. But there you have it. I had to make a correction because
I apologize.
I
apologize.
Okay.
I do make
apologize
mistakes.
too.
And
for
in the
believing
future,
this crazy, wacky guy.
in the future, you should probably check everything I say.
Yeah.
You want to check my hands and see how big they are? See?
I don't.
Huge!
My hand's bigger now. We are taking your phone calls tonight. If you have a question or comment about marijuana, give us a call at 503-288-4442. We have a caller standing by. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hello, Paul. Hi, Casper and John.
How you doing?
All right, yourself?
Pretty well. Pretty well.
Yeah, I was calling about Measure 91.
Uh-huh.
I was curious why, like the recreational grower at home, why they can't turn anything into like extract form, but non-solvent, like rosin or bubble heads.
I don't understand. I was against those regulations myself. I had a proposal that would not have imposed those restrictions. I understand that some people are afraid that people are going to blow themselves in their neighborhood up, or their hotel room, or wherever it is that they're doing these extracts. But
And then one other question. Under Measure 91, now, if you when you go to harvest one plant, if you cut it down, now is that technically that plant like in limbo because it's not dry weight and it's not also a plant either, right?
no, it's still counted as a plant.
Okay.
So what I
just wanted to
always
make sure
do,
before
I
started
harvest
it.
very big plants, and you're only allowed to have, under the Oregon's medical marijuana law, 1.5 pounds, and I'll harvest a plant that's over 10 pounds. You leave the whole plant hanging there as a single plant. Just take off the amount you can legally have. So in this case, under the household rule, under Measure 91, any adult can grow 4 plants per household and have 8 ounces of dried marijuana. So if you're like me and you harvest a big 10-pound plant, don't take more than 8 ounces off at one time.
Okay, that was my third question actually. So thank you very much for answering.
Sure.
All right, well, thank you very much and have a great night.
You're welcome. Thanks for your call. I guess we have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller.
Hello?
How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm just fine, thank you. My question is, I'm in Vancouver, Washington, and I would like to get a medical marijuana card. I cannot find any place or any information about it at all. I've got an okay from my doctor because this is for my back.
Has your doctor
And-
written up a recommendation?
Uh-huh.
Well, then that in itself is a permit, because in Washington, the doctor's recommendation is a permit. There's also a new process where you can apply to the state of Washington's health department. If you'd like
I
more
tried the health
information
department.
on how to obtain a state permit, you can call our office. I'll give you that number if you like.
Okay, thank you.
It's going to pop right up here on the screen.
Okay.
It's in Portland, 503-281-5100. That's 503-281-5100. Since you're in Washington, people can call toll-free anywhere in the United States at 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. And
Okay,
so...
well, my doctor didn't actually give me a permission. She put it on because I had a whole bunch of tests done. I'm really healthy. I'm tired of taking over-the-counter drugs.
Yeah. Well, if your
And,
doctor hasn't given you
just put it
permission,
down that
we
marijuana
have
is
doctors who can
available
help
in
you.
some stores.
So we have doctors that are seeing patients 5 or 6 days a week. In Portland, we have Washington licensed doctors who can recommend medical marijuana. In Washington, you can see the doctor in Portland or Olympia or many other places throughout Washington State. Not directly in Vancouver itself, but if you come over to our Portland office, our doctor will be happy to help you.
Okay, and they said they did tell me you could go through a naturopath
Yeah.
in Washington.
Yeah,
which would cost you
naturopaths,
an extra
naturopaths and
180.
nurse practitioners can recommend medical marijuana. It's true.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll try these numbers because I tried it. I tried the cookie. You know.
And it
And
helped you?
I can't believe the relief I've had.
What's your medical condition?
I've got osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, some RA, and it's right in the middle of my back, and I'm real
Really
active.
helps rheumatoid arthritis conditions. It also has been shown to stop, unbelievably, when I first read it, like osteoporosis. It'll help build up your bones.
Yeah, yeah.
So it helps all different forms of the problem you have. So for
Yeah.
more information, you can call that number right there on your screen, toll free. Leave a message right now. Somebody will call you back probably tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very
You're welcome.
much.
So yeah, if you're anywhere in the United States and you need help finding a doctor, we have doctors all across America that can help you. Just give us a call at 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. If you're here in the Portland area, you can call us locally at 503-281-5100.
And like here, I find the over-the-counter medications to be kind of pointless. The few times that I've tried to smoke an Advil, it just messed up my pipe.
Let's see. Advil. So how do you do that? You just put the
it in there,
pill.
just melted. The little capsule was melted all over my screen. It was a mess. I didn't know how they even. People buy it, so I guess somebody must be getting use out of it.
If you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us there at 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. You know, we have a studio audience, and if you want to come down and be in our studio audience any Friday night, you can come to 2766 Northeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. And we're live at 8 o'clock, and we have a microphone here.
And if you misbehave, we'll throw you out, we'll keep your coat, and we'll arrest you.
Just like
and then ask you to vote for us.
And so, but we have a studio audience member here right now that's at the microphone and ready to ask us a question. So go right ahead, Judy.
Yes, people should absolutely come down. It's a lot of fun. It's real easy. Kind of a twofold, I guess. This Nebraska Texas,
case,
Texas Superior Court thing. We had read that tucked into the latest federal spending bill was a passage that said that the federal government not only would they no longer tamper with state medical marijuana programs as long as they were.
It's the second year in a row that they amended the federal spending bill to include a ban on the federal government spending any money to prosecute or stop state medical marijuana laws. So that's true. But the case now that's the federal spending bill, but the case in the United States Supreme Court that's being filed by the states of Oklahoma and Nebraska against Colorado isn't talking about medical marijuana. They're talking about the recreational sale of marijuana. And so they're not filing a complaint that about Colorado's 14-year-old medical marijuana system. They haven't filed a complaint about that. They're filing a complaint saying that the fact that Colorado taxes and regulates the legal sale of marijuana to adults makes it more likely that marijuana will be imported into their states. And so the federal government, the U.S. Solicitor General, has argued that that's not true and that the case should be dismissed. And so the 8 members of the current United States Supreme Court will decide whether to accept this case, in which case they'll have to appoint what they call a supreme master to seek evidence in this original jurisdiction case, because the case wasn't brought through the lower courts and been appealed to the Supreme Court. It's an original jurisdiction case filed by the states of Nebraska and Oklahoma. So I think it's likely that the Supreme Court will deny review of this and that the law will stand as it is. But if the Supreme Court, in their 8 members, if it's tied, then nothing changes. They'd have to have 5 members of the U.S. Supreme Court say that they want to take up this case. And if they do, then it's going to be a long process. It's not going to happen overnight. It'll take a couple years. But that's a good point to bring up.
Thank you.
But it won't affect medical marijuana, just adult sale of marijuana in Colorado.
I've really been falling down on the job as an activist lately. I won't give my excuses, but I was hoping for myself and for the rest of those out there, if you could just briefly recap for medical patients, where are we at with the number of plants we can grow, the amount that we can have on hand, and whether or not we can make our own extracts?
Sure. As a medical patient, you can make your own extracts. You can have up to 24 ounces of marijuana and 24 marijuana plants. There's new rules that say there aren't any limits on the number of immature plants you can have. So if your plants are not budding, you can have an unlimited number of plants now. But you can only have 6 mature budding plants at a time. So that's where we stand right now. You can have 6 mature budding plants and an unlimited number of non-budding plants and 24 ounces of medicine. So that's how Oregon's medical marijuana law stands today. And if you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us at 503-288-4442. And we have a couple callers standing by. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, yeah. First off, I'd like to say I appreciate your work in the movement and get this prohibition eliminated. And I just had a quick question. I'm a fan of the old-style hash, and all I seem to find is, I know pretty soon, I'm just a recreational user, but I know pretty soon they're going to allow edibles and all this other stuff. I want like regular old school kind of hash, blonde Lebanese, whatever, old style kind of stuff, not this shatter and dab and all that kind of stuff. So I was wondering if you had any sense about how come it's so hard to find,
There's just this new buzz around these new substances, the shatter and the oil, but it's very easy to make the old style hash in either a sifting process with a silk screen or using ice water in the bubble hash method.
Yeah.
So either one of those ways you can make good hash, but you're right, you're not seeing much of that in these new dispensaries, and I'm not sure exactly why.
Yeah, if I was going to do that, I'd have to grow my own probably because it'd be too expensive for me to buy it and then make it.
Yeah. If you just go in and tell these stores, right now there is a limit that the stores can only sell a 1/4 ounce of flowers to people over 21. So you have to be a medical marijuana patient to access the anything except flowers of marijuana in the state of Oregon. But I would just be telling the stores what you want and tell them call you when they've got it. That's probably the best thing I can recommend right now.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. Hey, I had one other quick question.
Okay.
Call, you said recreational people can have 4 plants, which I was aware of. There's like the immature and the mature. How does that dynamic work for recreation?
Well, see, that doesn't affect you can have 4 budding plants, and it doesn't affect the recreational. It's a medical. They can have unlimited numbers of immature plants.
Okay, great. Well, thanks a lot. Like I said, I appreciate all your time and trouble you put into getting this kind of stuff done for our country because it's a long time coming. And peace. Have a good night.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
When the governor signs this bill that says, now that we're a bank within the state, we can take your money if you are a marijuana business, are they still
There's
going to?
There's several banks that have been accepting the money anyway.
Are they still going to, or are they going to do this song and dance where we're federal now?
The large interstate banks will not, but the smaller in-state banks will. And there are several in-state banks in Washington and in Oregon that are currently accepting what they call green accounts.
Because there have been a handful of banks who have deliberately looked at business owners in the eye and said, we'd love to take your money, and then we take your money, and when we get it, we freeze it because we want to give it back to you in 30 days and close your accounts. We were just kidding.
Right. Well, that's the way it is with these banks. I don't know.
Those are lying pieces of what?
There are some banks that will accept marijuana accounts. They're called green accounts. You have to pay a big application fee and jump through a lot of hoops. But there are several banks that will. Here in Oregon, there's Unitas Bank and the MAPS Credit Union, the Marion and Polk County, or the Marion and Polk School Credit Union, or MAPS Credit Union. And in Washington State, Timberland Bank. Those 3 banks.
So why do they charge you the extra money?
They charge $500 application fee, and then they have to make reports to the federal government to comply with their regulatory requirements.
Really?
Yeah.
Does the expression "that's a bunch of BS" ring a bell?
We have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Oh, hi, guys.
Hey, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing fine. Look, last week you had Lindsay Reinhardt on with her lobbying things in Salem.
Yeah, she's doing great work, isn't she?
About 6 weeks ago, you had Mark Miller on with his Restore Initiative. And it kind of sounded to me last week that some of the stuff that she'd been doing and where the legislature is going is kind of doing a U-turn on what Mark Miller's petition was doing. And so I was wondering what's going on with this. It kind of sounded like that a lot of the bad things the legislature was doing is being turned around now.
A lot of them are, not all of them, but a lot of them are. But I still like Mark Miller's initiative because it's about initiatives. It's not really about this specific initiative. It just says that when the people pass a law, it has to stay that way unless they send it back to the people to make a change. I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. But she also said that she did declare that they could not do or declare an emergency action on a tax thing. And so I'm just wondering, is that kind of like what Mark Miller was talking about?
Exactly, it is. So Mark Miller is saying that they wouldn't be able to do it without a vote on any issue, where right now, if it's a tax issue, some tax is being changed, it has to be referred to the people.
Well, fantastic. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you. So if you have another call or question for us tonight, hey, we got about 20 minutes left. You can call us at 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442.
I have a question, Paul.
All right.
I like to party. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Uh-huh.
But golly gee, it's March now, right?
Uh-huh.
So that means we've got to be at least within 4 weeks or more, less, of April 20th.
It's true.
Are there any plans for that day besides coming over to your house and smoking a pound like we always do?
There's tons of plans. I cannot tell you any specific ones. I know that the group that started the whole 420 thing, the Waldos down in Marin County, California, have a big thing celebrating 419 and 420. They're going to go to the top of this mountain in the Bay Area, Mount Tam. And that's where the whole 420 phenomenon began. That's going to be one thing down there. Here in Portland, I can't tell you right now. I'm sure there's a lot of things going on. A lot of people will be celebrating April 20th, but I don't have any. You should have told me you were going to ask me this question, Casper. I mean,
well, if you would have came to rehearsal today, sorry.
You guys think we rehearse? You know we don't rehearse, right? I mean, what can you say? So how's your radio network
It's going great. I tell you, but I almost gave up smoking marijuana this week, but I'm sitting there recording a show for the network, watching the Idiot Box with the sound down, and I see Donald Trump and Chris Christie on the same stage. I thought I need to put the pipe down, call for assistance. I'm hallucinating. I don't know. But it was really happening.
This whole Republican presidential thing's really got you all worked up, doesn't it?
It's the best comedy show on TV. I can't turn away. It's just...
Well, you're not the only one. I guess some of these debates have had, 25 million viewers, which is a record.
And they're heading for a civil war at the Republican Party. And I love watching rich people fight among themselves. It's great. They get pissy. They throw their hors d'oeuvres and they throw their little silver spoons, and then they get into their BMWs and go their own separate ways. It's awesome.
There have been a lot of breakthroughs on industrial hemp. We have our hemp flame of freedom here with little flower. It's kind of dwindling right now. It's just a little flickering flame. We need to build that up, and it needs to build to a bright, glaring liberty light. But it's there.
I just blew it out.
You blew it out? No.
Yeah.
But we have some video we're going to show you in just a moment about how other states, Oregon's now got a hemp law, other states are passing hemp laws. But before we do that, we have a telephone call. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
I have a question. I'm a retired vet, and I have acute neuropathy. And the only thing that seems to really cut the pain is marijuana. Mm-hmm. And I have an appointment this Tuesday with my neurologist up at the VA, and I'm very reticent to bring the subject up because I know how the government feels about this whole thing. Do you think I should bring it up to my neurologist, or
there are new laws that protect veterans seeking medical marijuana. However, it really depends on whoever the neurologist you're talking to, how they feel about it. Just because the federal government says it's okay doesn't mean that your neurologist knows that the federal government said it's okay. And maybe he thinks it's a good thing. Maybe he thinks it's a bad thing. We don't know, right? Yeah. But if you decide you don't want to bring it up to them, then we have doctors who can help you get a medical marijuana permit. So.
And how would I go about doing that? Just so I have a little upfront knowledge.
So if you're interested in that, is that what you said?
Yes. Yes, I mean, that's the only alternative I have.
Yeah, if you don't want to bring it up to your VA doctor because you don't know how they're going to respond or they might have, then there are doctors who will do it completely privately, and you don't have to let your doctor at the VA, the Veterans Administration, know that. I'm a disabled vet. Casper here's a veteran as well. I know exactly what you mean. If you're interested here in the Portland area, you can call our physician referral service at 503-281-5100. That's 503-281-5100. If you're outside the Portland area, we have doctors all across the United States, and you can call us at 1-800-723-0188, that number that's now on your screen. 150-100
number, what is the name of the organization?
It is Empower Healthcare.
I'm sorry?
Empower Healthcare.
Empower Healthcare.
Yes.
And they'll lead me to where I need to go?
Exactly. There are doctors that help hundreds of patients a week at that clinic here in Portland, and they have offices in many other cities.
All right. Well, I certainly appreciate this information. It's been perplexing me, but boy, I tell you, it sure makes a difference.
It certainly does. It does.
So I will definitely pursue this, and I really appreciate this.
You're very welcome. I hope it helps you.
Thank you, and God bless. I know.
God bless you. Again, if you need help finding a doctor, if you have any of these conditions here, then give the clinic a call here in Portland. Again, the number is 503-281-5100. If you're outside of Portland, you can call toll-free at 1-800-723-0188. We have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller. Hello? Oh, I just barely hear you. Hello? Oh, we lost him.
Well, this gives me a chance to do one of those shameless plugs, if that's all right.
Go ahead. Shamelessly plug your
I would love to let
radio.
people know about the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network, that you need to tune in at timeforhemp.com. We are forever expanding, and currently we are growing marijuana, oh my God, on our website. I said that word, marijuana. For those of you at home who hate that word, let me rephrase that. We're growing cannabis on our website. Thank you very much. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in high streaming definition. You can go there and check it out. Wolf Sigel is the official gardener for the project, so you can watch and see how talented Wolf is at making cannabis pop out of the soil and the various ways that he's going to be growing. We got great guests on lots of the programs and lots of wonderful hosts for you to tune in and check out. And we're also on the Roku TV network. There is so much on there. I could go another 15 minutes if you want.
No.
All right. All right, we got things to do. So that's the shameless plug for the timeforhemp.com Global Broadcasting Network. And like a good joint, we're always best when you share us with your friends. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome. We're going to run a little video right now about industrial hemp, and we'll be right back after this video to discuss it. Enjoy.
A new cash crop is big business here in Colorado, and no, we're not talking about marijuana exactly. 7 News reporter Jacqueline Allen shows us why Colorado is getting the nickname the Silicon Valley of hemp.
Its nickname may be ditchweed, but this Fort Lupton processing plant,
industrial hemp,
is turning Colorado's newest cash crop,
see how fluffy it is,
into something valuable.
So right now, is there more demand for hemp than what you can grow?
Oh my God, yes. 100%.
Danny Billings started growing hemp in Colorado last year after voters made it legal, along with recreational marijuana. The hemp plant is cannabis without the psychoactive properties.
I would say it grows like a weed. Literally, you throw it in the ground and just watch it grow.
But hemp is still illegal under federal law, so processing facilities are hard to find, and most processing here is done by hand.
This hemp was grown in Sterling, Colorado.
That's where Pure Vision Technology in Fort Lupton is coming in. President and CEO Ed Lehrberger gives us a tour of his pilot plant.
Our tagline is pioneering the hemp revolution.
Here, they're using new technology to quickly turn hemp stalks into raw materials like this pulp to make paper or this sugar to make biofuels, a sustainable alternative to oil.
So you process the entire plant?
The entire plant. Some of our clients specifically are trying to get away from oil-based products that they sell globally to bio-based products.
Pure Vision has been processing corn and wheat for years, but hemp farmers like Danny have driven demand to process this plant, saying it has thousands of sustainable uses.
Clothes, shoes, chairs, literally everything that we're in right now can be made from hemp, so it just needs to get going.
And from the plant to the pulp to the paper, Colorado is getting going. The so-called Silicon Valley of hemp turning ditchweed into a hot commodity. In Fort Lupton, Jacqueline Allen, 7 News.
All right, there you have it. Industrial hemp. We've got our hemp flame of freedom going here. Thank you, Scott Carr, Mr. Hypnosis. And he's got his hands a little oily, but the hemp flame of freedom. This is the reason marijuana was made illegal, because it is a fuel that you can pour right into. You can take hemp seed, marijuana seeds, press them, and you'll get over 300 gallons of oil per acre. That's 3 times more productive than any other vegetable oil crop. And you can pour pressed raw hemp seed right into any diesel engine, turn the key, and then you can drive and go. I'm a hand model now. See, big hands.
Big hands.
Right. But it's a fuel. It's a fiber. It's a food. It's a medicine. It's a wonder plant.
It's also the name that I used when I danced in Hollywood to make extra money.
All right. There you have it.
Flame of freedom.
Okay. There you have it. Anyway, so that is the reason marijuana was made illegal. And you can grow hemp not just in Colorado, but also here in Oregon. This week, several other states have added legal hemp. Virginia has passed a law this week that will allow Virginia farmers to grow hemp again. And so we're slowly but surely legalizing hemp in Virginia.
I know, but isn't Texas making it legal too?
Maybe.
Check your facts. I never know for sure. I might have been high that day.
I'm not going to do that right now.
Right.
But there's only less than 10 minutes left in the show. But one of our studio audience members is back at the microphone. Go right ahead, Judy.
On that subject,
subject.
These wonderful products, these wonderful hemp products, I assume that we can export the products, not the hemp itself, but the finished products can all be exported.
Hemp oil, hemp fiber, it can be imported, it can be exported, it can be shipped. It's completely legal, folks. Even in states that don't allow it to be cultivated, you can get the hemp fiber, hemp fuel.
Are we going to be investing in decorticating machines and stuff like that?
I know there's a fellow who's got a big one in North Carolina, and they're growing industrial hemp there this year. I don't know if we are. Maybe you are. Do you have a lot of investment income?
No, but
I've got some swampland in Florida that you might know.
Groovy.
Okay. Well, we're almost out of time here. So you wanted to talk more about your Cool and Groovy network?
It is awesome. I have Judge James Gray on there, who does a great program every month, and we've got
He's good.
He is. He's amazing.
He was the vice presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party under Gary Johnson.
And he's in Atlanta tonight accepting the nomination again, it looks like. So
really?
It looks like he's going to be the
Gary
vice president.
Johnson got more votes. He and Gary Johnson got more votes than any other Libertarian in history back in 2012, and they're both running again.
That's cool. So that means they got like 50 or 60 votes?
No, they got like
the most.
It was like 12, 12? More than 1 million.
Oh, really?
Yeah, more than 1 million. I can't tell you off the top of my head.
For a third party?
For a Libertarian.
Wow, that's cool.
So given the discord in the Republican Party, the fact that Gary Johnson was a 2-term governor for the state of New Mexico and a successful businessman who doesn't talk about his hands and who's never been sued by any of his customers and who runs the Ironman triathlons,
Right.
and he's climbed all 7 of the major mountains on the tallest mountain on each continent, from Mount Everest to all those
whatever.
different mountains.
Right.
Kilimanjaro in Africa. I guess that's supposed to be the easy one. Not that it's easy, but Gary
I've hiked
Johnson,
a couple of hills.
And Gary Johnson came to the Portland Hemp Stock Festival back in during the 2012 election.
To speak or to get high?
To speak.
Oh, okay.
And we'll have to show those interviews on some future show.
Groovy.
We will. So again, we are live, and if you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can give us a call at that number there on your screen. It's 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442.
And for those of you who are feeling the burn, call your doctor. That's probably not healthy.
But you know, Bernie Sanders is the first major party candidate to come out and say to completely delist, deschedule marijuana, take it off the list of controlled substances completely.
And dump out the prisons.
Yeah, exactly. And Earl Blumenauer, Portland, Oregon's own congressman, has been pushing that. He has gone to President Obama repeatedly asking him to take marijuana off the list of controlled substances altogether, because it doesn't belong on the list of controlled substances. No one's ever died from it. No one's ever been sent, been had their heart stop or any bad things from that. I mean, so I think it should be decriminalized.
Jack Hare said the only person
Descheduled.
who's ever died from cannabis is the one who's been at the end of a hemp rope.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. So again, we want to remind you that if you are looking for a doctor who can help you get a medical marijuana permit for any of these conditions that are about to pop on your screen, then you can call us at here in Portland. The number is 503-281-5100. That's 503-281-5100. If you're outside of Portland, you can call us toll free at 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. And we have another caller.
How high are you?
I'm not high.
Wow.
Oh, I'm doing good. I actually just called a few minutes ago, but I thought I'd call again. And
well, how high are you?
Yeah, I just thought I'd tell you a quick story about marijuana activism in Portland.
Go ahead.
Okay, this was back in about 90 or so, and a friend of mine, Floyd Ferris Landreth.
I know Floyd very well.
Okay, yeah. I was a friend of his, and I haven't seen him in a while, but he
He's
told
still
me a
out
great
there on
story
the internet.
about when the Oregon Convention Center was the first phase of it was done. Him and a few other people were passing out marijuana legalization literature on the public sidewalk, and some of the security for the convention center wasn't fond of that, and they went and called the cops, and they were arrested. And of course, they're handing out literature on a public sidewalk, and you can hand out whatever you want in the United States of America on a public space. And they ended up successfully suing the city of Portland and getting a judgment. And then also later on, I met him when I was living in the Sunnyside neighborhood by Hawthorne and Belmont.
Yeah.
We tried in the early '90s to get a thing passed where the Sunnyside board would back making the Sunnyside neighborhood like a marijuana-free zone as far as not against marijuana, but making it on the lowest priority of the Portland police.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, I still have some literature left over from that, too. I was wondering if there's any place where people would like to look at that. I thought it'd be interesting to try.
Bring it on down to our TV show any Friday night. I'd love to see it. If you got extras, I'll put it in our archive.
Okay, yeah, I'd have to.
Yeah, we're live every Friday night at 2766 Northeast MLK or Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, and we'd be happy to see it.
Bring a quarter pound with you too.
Yeah, I
He's
ain't got
a
that,
quarter
dude.
pound,
Pretty broke,
and he'll
but,
smoke some with you.
But yeah, I might do that. Just come down there and do that. So I like to preserve the history, you know.
That sounds great. Yeah, I remember his American Anti-Prohibition League.
Exactly, that's it right there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a real quick story too about him. Is that he was in Vietnam. He's a Vietnam vet.
I remember that.
And, he was a side gunner on helicopters, and he had all of his friends they grew up with. A bunch of them died in that war.
Yeah.
And he told me a story about when they'd be back at camp, and all these guys, most of the guys would be drinking, and they'd be, living it up, and then they'd be all depressed and sad the next day. But him and a few of his comrades got into smoking hash or weed, and they would actually sit up like on the rooftop of this one shack, and they would talk about the war and talk about what's going on, while these other guys were all just getting drunk and wasted, and then not, being aware of what's going on and just doing their same cycle, while Floyd and his buddies were actually contemplating what was going on.
Very good point.
So with that, I'll let you go. And
Yep. Well, thank you for your calls and comments. Our best out to Floyd Ferris Landreth out there. You're welcome to come down to our show.
Yeah, I might just do that and bring some of the stuff.
Okay.
I don't have to go through it, but
We are about out of time, though. We got to close out the show. Thanks for watching.
Yep. Good night.
We're going to go. Thank you, sir. We're going to go out on another great tune by Mr. John Cornette. Tune in next week and help us restore hemp. Good night.
This is for Scott. Lay down, oh MMP. Lay down,
So long, team.